Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Experience Kills. I'm your host Ben, and with me today in the co-host seat is the fish expert, Cameron.
That's weird, but hi everyone. Fish expert, really?
Well, you can be the fish expert or the fish sexpert if you prefer.
Ooh, yeah.
The reason we're getting fishy, the reason we're getting a bit in the stinky lands of the fish and the chum is because we are looking at Maneater. I have had the great pleasure of reviewing this a little bit early on the Xbox One, and I have had a brilliant time, Cameron, with this game. It is so flipping bonkers. I'm loving it. So basically, this is the shark game. Now, you might have seen it, videos of this when it got announced and shown off at the VGAs, I think a couple of years ago. But it's been sort of floating around, if you like. It's going to be a lot of these, prepare yourselves, for a while now, and it's finally out, and it's really good fun. It's made by a developer called Tripwire Interactive. You might know them from Killing Floor, which was like a horde shooter that's been out for a while now on PS4, Xbox and everything, you know, and that's a very well made game as well. I think we reviewed Killing Floor 2 on PlayStation and the VR package for it a few months ago.
Yep, both of which I have played, and they are both awesome.
Yeah, these guys, what they do, I think it's fair to say, and I don't think they'd be offended to say, these are like AA developers, right? So they're a bit bigger than an indie, but they're not like EA, Ubisoft, they're not AAA, they're not that level. But what they bring to the table, which maybe they don't have like, you know, lots of finances and huge amount of resources, they do have creativity, and they obviously have a passion for games, because it really shows through from what they produce. And Maneater is no different. So what Maneater is, it's an open world action RPG in which you play as a bull shark. That's right, you are a shark. And the only way I can describe it tonally is it's like Jaws crossed with one of those sci-fi original movies, or maybe if you know the guys that they work with a lot, which is
like Sharknado and
Land
sharks.
Land shark, yeah, that kind of thing, or shark octopus, that stuff, you know, one of those ones.
Don't remind me of Sharktopus, please.
So, yeah, they often in conjunction with like the Asylum guys and stuff like that, they make really cheesy, you know, movies, and that it's crossed with kind of like a Shark Week documentary. I'm not talking about documentary on the level of like David Attenborough, but like documentary on a slightly cliched, easygoing kind of style, and then with a little bit of Deadliest Catch sprinkled in on the top of it. It's really strange, but tonally it comes across as it's got these moments of seriousness, but then hugely funny and just ridiculous all at the same time. And it's actually really cool because a lot of the story is delivered through narration. Now, there are cutscenes with characters, I kid you not, in this game, but there's also narration, and narration has all been done by Chris Parnell. Are you familiar with Chris Parnell, Cameron?
Well, many times over from many different things.
Yes, he's done a lot, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has a very distinctive voice.
He does, and it was one of those things where I didn't know it was him. I didn't know he was in the game and then I heard it, and I was like, I know that guy, and I had to look him up. And yeah, Chris Parnell, probably most well known from the moment as Jerry from Rick and Morty. So you know, Morty's dad. He really stands out, and he brings a really kind of self-serious but knowing delivery to the narration, which I think is just a brilliant way of getting the story across, because once again, you do play as a shark, so there's not a lot of dialogue coming from your character. There's not a lot of kind of conventional story moments that can be tied into your shark.
So this isn't like a shark whose wife has cheated on him and he's going on a rampage or anything. No, not that kind of narration.
Important to say, the shark is a she. You do play as a she shark, lady shark if you prefer, madame shark. It would also work.
So she is a man-eater in more than one way.
Oh, you eat so much, man. It's incredible. That's the whole game. The whole game is eating. Basically, everything is based around eating. All the mechanics, all the impetus, everything. Which makes sense as you are a shark. So the game starts, no spoilers. Actually, I will avoid spoiling it, but it starts off with kind of a framing device in which you play as the shark's mum, and has it run in with what will become the villain character, as it were, in this, which sets you on this journey of revenge and gives you like a strange motivation beyond just eating, and it's brilliantly well done. And that's kind of where the deadliest catch element comes in, because he's like a fisherman and he's always been a shark hunter, and he hates damn sharks killed his daddy and all of this, and you're that's why he's out for sharks. And then something happens which makes it that your shark really wants to eat this guy, and it's hilarious and weird and sad and violent and horrible all at once, and it just works as a reason to play the game. So the game is structured around, like I said, this ARPG in an open world. So the open world is kind of broken down into these sections. There's about 8 or so of them, and each one is a sort of different style of location. So you start off in the bayou, and then you head to like a lake, and then you go from the lake to, honestly, like there's bits around like a golf course, like the water all around this fancy golf course, and then there's all kinds of different environments where you get out finally into the open ocean, and all the while you're eating and consuming, and that's where you get kind of the currencies that you need to upgrade your shark. It's so weird. But
like,
I know
I've got 3 arms. What do 3 arms get me?
So crazy. It's not quite that. I mean, it is still a shark, but what it is it's justified by there are mutagens and like pollution in the environment, like nuclear waste, and that mutates and helps your shark evolve at a rapid rate, basically, which is their kind of in-world justification for you to be able to actually level up and give abilities to your shark, from the different teeth you have, to your body, to your head, to your fins, to like passive abilities. And it works, though. It works. These guys haven't just thrown this game together as a joke. It's not just a stupid mobile game. This has definitely been thought about and worked on and iterated.
It's got some polish on it.
We'll get to like the visuals and the gameplay in a minute, but yeah, I think the mechanics and the actual kind of impetus for upgrading are really well done, and that's surprising. You'd think this game could be quite a shallow gimmick thing, but it's actually a really fully fledged open world RPG experience, and it's hilariously well done. It's like so much fun. So most important, how good's the swimming? The swimming's really good. Like the controls of your shark work really, really well, I think. One of the things I love is when you're in like fin mode, so when you're just under the surface, you can basically get a turbo and you basically swim really fast, and that's how you can cover large distances very quickly in that mode. So when you're fully submerged, you are a bit slower, but that's helpful because a lot of the combat will happen when you're fully submerged, especially against other animals. So you might be fighting crocodiles or alligators and things like that, or even other sharks as the game progresses and you get more and more difficult enemies to face. And you level up, and enemies have levels as well. So there is like an element of, if you're level 3 and you're fighting a level 15, you're probably going to get your ass whipped. So you kind of want to progress at a sensible pace through the different environments so that you don't outclass yourself too quickly. Though you can basically go as far as you want straight away once you get out of the sort of tutorial environment, but I would say it's more of a better idea to pace yourself. So like I said, swimming feels really good, probably the best I've sort of feeling motion in the water I've experienced in a game in a while. Obviously something that's super important for a game like this. It doesn't feel necessarily realistic, but it feels and plays really, really nicely. And then the other part, of course, a part of that is combat. So you've got the mobility feels good, and combat can be a little bit mashy, I think is the best way of describing it. And that's because when you're underwater, it kind of gets into that furball situation, especially with another animal, where you're kind of just both attacking each other and trying to bite each other and trying to get each other. There are ways of countering, and there are different sort of attacks you can do, and there's an indicator on the enemy when they're like weak for an attack, so you can hit them at the most opportune time, so you can see when to do that.
Sort of thing.
Yeah, they kind of flash, and it indicates that they're sort of at a weakened moment where you can strike. I found myself just kind of attacking all the time though, and then you'd be like, you get hurt and you'd have to swim away a bit, maybe eat a few turtles or whatever to get your health back, and then come back in and attack like an apex predator or something like that. In the open world, you're probably wondering, what do you do? So there's various things to get up to. So you've got like missions where you've got to kill X amount of that, or you've got missions where you've got to kill certain amounts of humans in an area. And I think the only downside of it I've found with this game, and to be honest, it's a small drawback considering it's at I wouldn't say a budget price, but it's not a full price release. And, you know, obviously the team is smaller and this is a niche experience, but sadly in the open world, there's not that much variety to the things you can do. In each of these sort of distinct environments you go to, it's kind of the same stuff. So go here, kill 10 of them, go here, kill some humans, go here, kill some animals, kill an apex predator, etc, etc, etc.
I'm hardly expecting an escort mission in deep ocean, you know?
Well, as a shark as well, importantly. I mean,
as a shark, yeah.
You are a bit limited, aren't you, as to what you can do. What you're not limited too much by is land. Incredibly. You can basically jump out of the water, flop along on land using the jump button and attack people on roads, in housing estates. You know, as long as you can get back into water within... it's probably like 30 seconds, 40 seconds, something like that. There is like a breath mechanic where, you know, obviously a shark needs to be underwater to breathe with his gills, but you can still be a very effective killing machine on land.
Would that then kind of tie in with like mutagens and stuff where you can kind of hold your breath for a bit longer when
absolutely
as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, cool.
Nice. So there's things you can, you know, there are passive abilities you can choose and customize, and I'll actually mention how you get some of those in a minute, which is actually one of the cooler mechanics. But yeah, the ability to attack humans on land is hilarious because they all react in the same way, which is to basically stand there and scream. Because let's be honest, if you saw a shark coming down the road at you, I think you'd probably stand there and scream, wouldn't you? I mean, be like, what am I seeing?
I think the confusion will set in first before the flight,
yes.
Mechanic.
And that's basically what happens. They've actually kind of nailed that. Like, they do start to run away and disperse, but first of all, they kind of just stand there and scream, and you just eat their friends in front of them, or their children, or their loved ones, and just chomp down. Actually, I don't think there are any children in this game. I think they've quite wisely not done child models, because it would be pretty disturbing. Because when you eat them, it's violent. You know, you're dismembering, you're chunking these fools. And
chunking these fools. You're chunking these fools.
That's what I'm going with, man. That's what I'm going with. And one of the best bits is like proper like Jaws, when you grab a dude or you know, an animal and you kill it just under the surface. You watch the sea all go red from their blood and just like saturate it and stuff for a moment or two, and it's like, yeah, I got that guy good. The best bit is though, you are a shark, so it's like you don't really feel any remorse or guilt. This is what sharks do. Sharks eat people, especially when they're psychotic murder machines like this particular shark is. In a way, it probably gives a lot of sharks a bad name, because you are really, really, really aggressive and psychopathic in your desire for human flesh.
It's true, yeah. I mean, statistically, more people are killed per year by vending machines than there are sharks. So, vending machine simulator.
That wouldn't be as exciting, would it? It does balance the tone well, though. It's not super cartoony. I mean, what will happen is when you're killing humans, your infamy level goes up, and when your infamy level goes up, out come the hunters. Basically, you know, like in a GTA game when the police arrive. So basically, you get a certain rating, and then you get these shark hunters appear, and they'll come on boats and whatnot, and they'll try and kill you. And basically, yeah, for the most part, they're not that hard to deal with. One of my favorite things to do is just jump out of the water, grab a shark hunter off a boat, jump back in, you know, land back in the water. So you're like Free Willy, but with bigger teeth.
Sneak attack, yeah.
Yeah, and you just got him. You know, and they'll try and shoot you, and they can track you underwater, and they can send divers down and stuff. But to be honest, they're kind of just a nuisance, and you just mess them up, murder them by the dozen. So when you get to a certain level at that point, like you'll tick over, they'll then send a named like shark bounty hunter after you. And when you kill them, that's when you can unlock certain abilities. So it sort of incentivizes you to kill more humans, because more human deaths means more special abilities that you can unlock to customize your shark into the ultimate murder machine. And that's kind of the impetus of the whole game. It's to eat, to consume, to kill, so that you can get better and better and better and better. And you start from a baby and you go all the way through teen, adult, and you end up as Megalodon. So you could just keep evolving into the ultimate shark murder machine, and it's so much bloody fun. I will mention, you know, it's like I said, it's a AA game. It's an open world AA game. There is a bit of jankiness in here. At one point, I did sort of go through the floor, and then I'm sort of swimming under the water, if you like, and I'm stuck under there for a bit until I found my way back into the sort of properly populated environment. So there are some areas where they've probably not been able to QA test this for thousands of hours, you know, so there's going to be some little areas like that. But at no point does any of that hurt my enjoyment. Yeah, I mean, there's clipping issues and things where textures will not load in and stuff sometimes that quickly, but I didn't care, man. It's just not what I just didn't care. This game is really important for me to say. This game is kind of unique. I've never played a game like this. I've never played an action open world game as a shark before. And let's be honest, there's a million open world games, and they're usually white dude runs around with gun, right? Or sword. I'm a shark, for Christ's sake. Who doesn't want to be a murder machine shark? If you want the ultimate power fantasy with no guilt, no remorse, no questions of sexism or gender politics or any kind of weirdness about portrayals of characters or intercharacterizations, this is the game. Because let's be honest, if you're a shark killing people, nobody's going to question that. Nobody's going to be like, whoa, I'm not sure if that shark's motivations make sense. Ooh.
Yeah, there's no political statement to be made.
Nope, it's just fun. It's just guiltless, joy-fulfilling fun. I just had such a good time with this, and yeah, it gets a bit repetitive and a bit samey because of the lack of variety in the mission types. But I didn't care, man. At the end of the day, if I just get to go and eat some more humans, I'm just gonna do that. I'm just gonna eat some people, and it's all spurred along by like I said, the Chris Parnell narration is so funny, and it will just kick in and say something so sort of self-serious at a really ridiculous time. I think there was one time when I flopped onto a boat and I ate the crew of this boat, and he chimed up with something along the lines of, everybody thinks a shark is motivated. I can't do his accent, but everybody thinks a shark is motivated by its need to eat. What people don't realize, its need to create fear is just as important. And you're like, what? That's not how. I love it. That doesn't make sense, but I love it. That's not how sharks work. But let's say it is.
So Chris Parnell's
narration
is insinuating that they need to kind of fear marinade its food.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of it. It's that's not true. That's not a real thing. But in this world where sharks can evolve due to mutagens and sort of industrial pollution, sure. Let's go for that. I mean, this is like the Meg in that regard. It doesn't make... If you haven't seen that film, by the way, everybody should see that film. It's so dumb, but brilliant. It's just really good fun. Is there anything you wanted to ask me about it? Anything you wanted to know about it? I've had a riotous time with it. Honestly, I can't sing its praises enough.
Is it just the one shark you play as, the bull shark? Is it is there any kind of other breeds you get to go as? Is there any great whites or tigers or anything you meet in other oceans and stuff as well, or...
You meet other
sharks and stuff?
Yes, you do meet other sharks that you have to deal with. You only play as the bull, but really by the end of it, you're not really a bull shark. I mean,
you are a shark god.
You are like this monster shark. You're like the Godzilla of sharks. You've just evolved to this... Sharkzilla. Right. There you go. That's it. That's what we should go with.
I'm going to research that on Sci-Fi tonight to see if there's actually a Sharkzilla film.
Oh, I bet that exists. If that doesn't exist, I would be so surprised. Asylum and Sci-Fi have definitely made that. It's got to exist.
F1, it just sounds like you really sank your teeth into that game.
It was very good. That was very good. I did indeed. I had a fantastic time with this. I really did. I mean, yes, it has that open world jank, as I've said. Mentioned the visuals. It wasn't enhanced or anything for the Xbox One X, 4K or anything like that. It ran alright. Frame rate wasn't an issue. Combat can be a bit mashy, but all in all, as a package, as a unique gaming experience, I mean, this game is called Maneater. It does exactly what it says on the tin. You get to play as a badass shark with a surprisingly compelling story and a surprisingly compelling reason to go through it and actually just get through the whole narrative. I mean, the game has a crap ton of collectibles in it as well, from these different beauty spots that are hilarious. Each one you find is hilariously narrated by Chris Parnell with really funny writing. There's all these sort of license plates to find, of course, because Jaws, you have to find license plates to eat as a shark. That's just the law. And then just myriads of different things to kill in these quite diverse environments in this one large kind of connected open world. There's a lot in here. This game is super ambitious, and I really think Tripwire Interactive have knocked it out of the park. I think it's it will sit there as this weird late generation curiosity, and I do hope people check it out. I think the price point being that £30-35 area is going to be really appealing to people, and it's a quiet time of year to come out right now in the summer as well. Not a lot of competition. This is the remake and remastered time of year, as we're seeing, and this is going to stand out as a unique entry into the open world genre that really is worth checking out. If you love sharks, if you love open world games, it's a strong recommendation from me. Yeah.
Awesome. What should I say? Jawsome.
Oh, yeah, that was good, dude. Thank you. I mean, the worse they are, the better. Almost like when it comes to sharkfish puns, just keep going with it. Like you can't, there's no such thing as a good one. They're all great. So yeah, that's the end of our review of Maneater by Tripwire Interactive. We played it on the Xbox One X. It's just a brilliant game. You've got to check it out. And I hope you've enjoyed watching this and listening to this, depending on where you picked it up. So I might as well mention that if you are watching on YouTube, please give us a like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate that. You can find us all again, I think, on Twitter. I think Cameron's back on Twitter because he followed me on Experience Kills after his time away from Twitter. He just couldn't resist and he's back. Is that right?
I couldn't stay away. There's too much good stuff on there.
So where can people find you on Twitter?
I believe I'm still at Camelot. Last I checked.
You reactivated the old account. That's good. You can find me at DIYE. You can find us at Experience Kills. Every one of these video reviews is also available as a podcast and can be found from any good podcast provider. Please give us a rating on there as well. We always appreciate that on iTunes or Spotify or whatnot. And just check us out on social. Get in touch. Tell me what you think of Maneater when you play it. I'd be really curious to find if everybody's enjoyed it as much as me. And we'll be back very soon for more exciting video games. So until then, let's swim off into the sunset together. Goodbye.
The shark actually injured a dolphin today, but luckily it wasn't on purpose.
Whoa.